this is part 2 of engaging your horse's thoracic sling for strength so that they can properly sit and carry you from behind. So you want to do the exercises that are in the first video that I did with the little Palomino horse. This is Adagio. He is my 3.5-year-old Lepizan. He's been under saddle now for a couple of months. He's been doing all of those other exercises since he was about a year old. For this, a lot of it has to do with separating the front limbs and bringing them back together so that we are engaging these muscles. So it's kind of like doing the butterfly exercise for us, like weight training in the gym. I know, you good boy. I like to do it off of like a bridle, or you can also use like a lunge cavesson holding off of like the attachment here at the front. But I don't like to play around with a whole lot of tack, so this is like a big thing that you, not a big thing, it's a little thing. It's a little thing that you can do without having to tack on a whole bunch of other stuff. Grab your noseband at the front. First thing that I'm going to do is make sure that my body is centered over my legs so that I am rooted into the ground so that he cannot push me over. I'm going to send his energy backwards so that he engages his core. Good boy. And then ask him to extend his neck forwards without extending his feet forwards. Good boy. Good. Yes. Good boy. And I'm going to ask, now that he's on his hindquarters, I'm going to ask him to laterally move around without invading my space by taking my whip onto this side. And I'm going to send my energy from this hip to his haunches this way. And I'm staying very rigid through my hands that he does not invade my space. Do not intervene. Good boy. One more step. Good. And then to finish, I'm going to ask him to step into his haunches again and contract. Good boy. Ooh. Good boy. Same thing. You can see that we've done this before. I think it's important for you guys to see what this looks like with a 3-year-old horse, because this is probably what it looks like when you first start out. If I were to pull out an FEI level horse and show this to you, that's going to be your expectation of how it's going to start off. That's not very fair. Let's take a look at what this looks like when we're under saddle too. Come on, bud. Hello again. All right, first thing that we're going to do is ask for him to rock back onto his hindquarters using just our seat and leg. It's important that we don't pull the horse back onto the hindquarter. Good. Ooh. Ooh. Good. And then I'm going to ask him to stretch into the bridle. Good boy. Stretch into the bridle. By lifting my hands, we don't pull the horse down onto the bit, we lift up and allow him to find the bit in the corners of the mouth. A little bit. No. Too much leg? Good boy. Good boy. All right. I was going to say you can add leg to encourage the stretch. Okay. Let's reposition again. All right. So obviously we're on our hindquarters. All right. Now we're going to do that same sort of open and close of the legs. from one side to the other. So I'm gonna go from this side to that side. Oh. So I'm going to ask with my seat, opening up this seat bone and creating space in this direction. I'm going to add leg at the girth. Good boy. Good boy. All right, and back the other way. I'm opening up a seat bone, adding leg on this side to push away from. If he falls into the hand, I create a wall with the hand, but it's not an active pull back on the hand at all. All right. Good. New horse, who dis? Hey. Okay. So some of the other exercises that we can do with this would be things like turn on the haunches and turn on the forehand. So we decided to snag a different horse to give you a little bit of an idea of what to do there. And darn it, you're a good girl. Okay. So when we want to do turn on the forehand, we want to hold the forehand in place with some activity. We don't want them to just grind and pivot into the ground. But our aiding here is thinking stay put here with activity behind. Staying mindful that you don't need your aids to be really super big. Horses are not stupid, and we don't need to be quite so obvious with it. So when I take my leg back, it's slight. It's just a few inches, okay? And in doing that, it influences my seat bone. So if I ask her for a turn on the forehand in this direction, I'm going to pin with a hand. It's not a pull back, it's more of a fixation here, so that if I feel any sort of mobilization, I get a rigidity in my contact. This hand goes back. Good girl, you're giving me all good things. Yes, good girl. So when she wanted to take the step forward, what she meant was sort of like the ballet bar, to instead of a pull back. If I gave her a pull back, then I would frustrate her and give her like, she'd be thoroughly confused. So another step again. Good girl. Another step again. Good girl. And as I feel that the hip is swinging over, I allow my seat bone on the side that we're moving away from to really drop into that hole, to really encourage that to move over. And turn on the forehand in the other direction. Good girl. I actually find that turn on the forehand is a lot more difficult than turn on the haunches, because everything that we ask the horse to do is pretty much sit, and that's the antithesis of sit. So for turn on the hindquarters, it is a sitting up and back and over. This is sort of the motion that I'm thinking energetically. The leg that we are moving away from is at the girth. I'm going to create an opening, lifting an opening on this side. And I am up and away from my horse's front end. Yes, good girl. So a good place to do this is actually like in corners. You could approach a corner and do a turn on the forehand in one corner, then a turn on the haunches in the next corner. So again, I'm sitting up, I'm thinking up, over and around, almost like I'm thinking about stepping over an object this way. And I'm thinking forward and over. Forward and over. Forward and over. Good girl. That also really helps with that. Sitting on the hindquarters, opening up the front end, and creating some autonomy of their shoulder girdle and their chest sling.